Welcome to the Southeastern Washington Future Workforce Summit, breakout session number 1, Bridging the Gap, where you'll have the opportunity to get the inside scoop from HR leaders representing major employment sectors in our region. I'd like to introduce your panel moderator, Stephanie Warner. Stephanie is a senior at WSU Tri-Cities majoring in biology. She is a student government leader and was handpicked by Chancellor Sandra Haynes to represent WSU. In discussing this project with Stephanie, I learned she's from Puyallup. So of course I asked her, with all the higher ed institutions on your side of the state, what brought you to Richland? And her answer was quite interesting. She said she researched opportunities and she found that WSU Tri-Cities has a strong STEM focus and that our community offers great internship opportunities. So think about that. That is a pretty powerful brand that our community is building, a brand that is attracting top talent like Stephanie to our region. Some of you may recall the Smiths. They're a young couple, both Air Force Academy grads, who we met a few years ago at this event. They were both highly recruited by companies from across the nation, but they explained to us that their decision to come to the Tri-Cities and work for WRPS was in part informed by the fact that their children could have a chance to attend our STEM high school. Our region is becoming known as a national model for community engagement in our schools and innovative STEM learning. It is that reputation that is helping us to build the workforce of the future. Take it away, Stephanie.
Thank you, Deb. I am excited to be here today. I will do my best to uphold Chancellor Haynes' confidence and not let my WSU classmates down. This morning, you will have an opportunity to hear from some of our region's major employers about how the talent gap impacts their organizations. We will discuss strategies for bridging the divide between the great jobs in our region and the exceptional talent in our school. I'll also be looking for some insider tips and strategies educators, parents, and students can use to achieve career success. In planning this panel, we committed to making this a first-name basis, informal and engaging discussion. Although each of our panelists has a long and impressive resume, in the interest of time, we choose to only share a few words of introduction about each. Let me begin with April Castañeda. April is the Chief Human Resources Officer at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. April has held multiple roles spanning the public and private sector. With more than 25 years of experience, she provides a wealth of expertise in all areas of HR, including a rich background in HR strategy and communications, organizational development, employee relations, and performance management. Next, we have Julie Cox. Julie is the Director of Talent Acquisition and Global Mobility at LambWeston. In this role, she's responsible for talent acquisition strategy, HR compliance, and global relocations. Julie is married to Mike, and she has 3 grown children and 3 delightful grandchildren. She loves to travel and always has a cool trip planned. She has an acute Diet Dr. Pepper addiction that she needs to kick, but probably won't. Fortunately, soda goes well with French fries, so every day is a Friday at the Cox house. And next we have Angela Major. Angela has worked in human resources for 22 years. She has supported Kadlec Regional Medical Center since 2005. Angela has experience in most every section of human resources and has been in her Chief Human Resource Officer role for the last 5 years. And last but not least, we have Dan Seitz. Dan is a Senior Human Resource Specialist at Mission Support Alliance, here today offering a broad view of Hanford HR-related issues. Dan has worked in both the private and public sector for 20 years in the areas of business systems, human resources, including recruiting, outplacement, compensation, benefits administration, EEO/affirmative action, and employee development. Also, I want to thank our question moderator for today's panel, Tricia Anderson. Tricia is a Career and Technical Director for Kennewick School District. Tricia has 18 years of experience in education as a teacher, high school administrator, and CTE director, and more than 20 years in private business. Now, I would like to pose the first question to each of our panelists in the order that they were introduced. Please share a brief overview of how the talent gap impacts your organization, how many employees you currently have, what are you struggling to fill right now, and what anticipated gaps are there in the future?
we really are looking really hard for software engineers. We look for cybersecurity experts, folks who have started to get some acumen in that, and we can even give more experience in that as well. And data science, that's a big one for us. Data science is one of those gaps that we're really struggling to find enough people. We know there's not always enough people coming out of schools bringing that expertise, but it's like we get a lot of data, and then how do we tell the stories? How do we understand what that data is telling us? So that's one of those gaps as well. We also have a big biology initiative that, so we're looking for biologists and chemists and physicists who can help us think through things like pandemics and COVID-19. So I could go on forever, but I know I'm not the only one on this panel. But yeah, those are some of the big things that we're looking for in terms of those talent gaps.
Our talent gaps lie primarily in the areas of skilled engineering, skilled trades. We have 7,600 employees currently, and we are consistently hiring between 200 and 300 at any given time. The majority of our positions are in the Pacific Northwest. We have 27 manufacturing facilities around the globe, but quite a few of them are clustered in the Pacific Northwest. And we are consistently on the hunt for, like I say, engineering pieces. Our engineers lead our capital improvement projects, and that's what keeps our products going, our plants running, and our plants safe. So the big gap we have right now, I would say, is in that area, as well as within entry level. We have 2 programs to bring folks on at the entry level. One is called a team leader production, and one is called an associate engineer. We hire upwards of 30 of each of those a year. And so we're always looking for good folks to join our programs as entry level and get started their careers at LambWeston.
At Kadlec, we're a regional hospital. We have a presence that goes beyond the Tri-Cities. So we try to be most things to most people. Obviously, we're not a big city hospital, and so we can't have a specialty for everything. But with the most things for most people motto comes the need for a very robust workforce. Right now, with COVID and the state being behind, we're really having to get creative on how we grow our own and bring caregivers into our workforce. And so, you know, we would usually look as an example for a certified nursing assistant. Well, now we're starting them as a registered nursing assistant and sponsoring them into that certification and finding ways to get them into the workforce sooner instead of waiting like we usually do until they have their registries or their certifications or their licensure. So we're having to get creative. So that's posing a little bit of a gap, but in general, you know, we employ 3,655 today caregivers. And so we're always looking for certified nursing assistants. We're always looking for registered nurses. You've seen our clinics all throughout the Tri-Cities. We always need medical assistants for those. The surgical technologist area is an area that we work really hard with our local college and universities to make sure that we've got folks interested in those programs. It's not an obvious choice. And so we like to talk more about, you know, hey, have you considered going into, you know, being a surgical technologist? And then of course we have DI, so the X-ray techs, the MRIs, the CTs, the rehab therapies. And then another area that doesn't get a lot of attention, but really speaks to students who just absolutely love science are the laboratory technologists, or the folks who work in pathology or the gross room where they're working with samples and tissues and all of those kinds of things. So we always have those kinds of gaps, but in this world, we just have to continue to be creative to get caregivers in through the door.
When you say entry level, are you saying entry level after high school or assuming a college level education?
Yeah, it depends on the position. A lot of these kinds of positions that we hire and support and are critical to the hospital require you know, either a 1-year or a 2-year program that would get them a registry or a certification. We hire nurses in with a 2-year degree, and then we sponsor them to further their education into achieving their bachelor's. We do have entry-level positions that are critical, again, to the hospital in environmental services, supply chain, nutrition services, key critical to keeping this hospital running, keeping it clean, caring for the patients. And so there's a variety of opportunities within the hospital that doesn't always require, you know, a 4-year degree.
Hanford has about 10,000 employees and lots of opportunities. So it's a very large fishbowl with a very diverse in terms of the work that we do. There are several contractors, but they all have distinct environmental remediation activities. We're one of the largest environmental remediation projects, arguably in the world at 600 square miles. So we have tank waste management, which is managed by Washington River Protection Solutions, the vitrification plant, which is managed by Amentum and Bechtel. And then the cleanup work that we have at Central Plateau is managed by CH2M, which was recently acquired by Jacobs Engineering. And then the Hanford Site Infrastructure is what Mission Support Alliance does, and that's a company that I work for. And so we're responsible for all things Hanford Site Infrastructure. So that's roads, maintenance. We do all the information technology infrastructure, as well as all the sewer, water, electrical utilities. We're also responsible for the Hanford Fire Department, as well as site security and emergency operations. So there we have it's very broad in terms of the different things that are, all of the contractors do, but with one goal and one mission in mind, and that's to restore the Hanford site and to remediate it and get it back to its natural state. So in terms of opportunities, as we migrate towards nuclear operations, when the VIP plant begins transitioning and processing waste from the tank farms, you know, we move to nuclear operations, so that presents a lot of opportunities. But a bigger challenge that we have is we have this huge population of individuals that are part of what we call the silver tsunami. And even though you can kind of tell I'm sort of going gray, but I'm not part of that silver tsunami, but it has to do with this huge population of individuals that is migrating towards retirement. And so in terms of where we see the skill gaps, it's across all facets and job groups. So if you're talking about technical fields, we're looking at nuclear engineering, environmental engineering, obviously nuclear engineering, health physics, industrial hygiene, scientists, biology, environmental scientists, software engineers, cybersecurity specialists, to support all the technical things that we do. But then if you look on the business operations side, there's a lot of opportunities there as well. So if you're talking within that realm, you're talking about accounting, finance, program controls, project controls, human resources, contracts administration, and even in the the trades that are responsible for, the building trades plus operations and maintenance, there's a lot of opportunities there as well for those that are interested in trades. So you're talking electricians, plumbers, radiological control technicians, industrial hygiene technicians, safety technicians. So in terms of the opportunity that's available at Hanford, it's very, very broad and it's very, very vast. And it will continue as we continue to migrate the population that's currently in, close to retirement status. As we phase them out, we'll have continued needs to be able to fill those skill gaps.
So the next question is, now let's have some fun. You each have 2 minutes to present your best Shark Tank style pitch on why young people should consider your organization or industry. Oh, and we can proceed in the same order, yes.
Okay, I wondered. Thank you. All right, so I will go first. This is a great question, by the way. I love this question, Stephanie, thank you. As we think through, so one of the things that we were lucky enough to do at P&L right before we went into pandemic mode, right, was we started and concluded what we call a lab-wide culture survey. And from that survey, what we found was we had these top 3 traits that emerged as to who P&L is, what it's like to work there, who we are. And I think this is pretty exciting when you think about it. So what we found was across all directorates, across all disciplines, it didn't matter what work you were doing at P&L, that our #1 trait was we are adventurous. And what that means is we're explorers, and we have a strong curiosity. We love solving problems, tackling big challenges. That was really what drove us, and people who come to us really thrive if they're really curious and they really want to be sort of the first, or they want to discover, having that sense of discovery. The second highest trait we found, which was a really close second, was that we're sociable. And I know lots of times people don't think of scientists as sociable, but we totally are. And what that means is that the way that work gets done at P&L is through deep relationships, both internally and externally. So we have lots of networks inside. We like to collaborate with each other. Then also on top of that, we work with a lot of agencies outside, like, so we work with Department of Energy, and we work with NNSA and other groups in the federal organizations. And we sponsor, we call them our sponsors, and we develop deep relationships with them as well, is what we found. And that's really how work moves through. It also means that when people are in trouble, we rise up and we help. We get together, we help, and we come together as a community. Now, our third highest trait, which this will not be surprising, was wise, that we appreciate wisdom, expertise. We like data, and we like information. We like the transparency of that and being able to share that. So when I think about why you would want to come to P&L, it's because you get to work with a group of people who are explorers, who like to work together and collaborate, and who really have a respect for deep wisdom, and they share that. So that's my Shark Tank pitch about why you would want to come work at P&L.
Good job, April. Let me tell you a little bit about LambWeston. I want you to think about the last time you ate a French fry. And I want you to think about providing that same amount of joy to everyone else around the world. You can do that if you work at LambWeston. We're an innovative company. We're a global company. We provide French fries, one of the truly fun foods in the world, to restaurants and retailers around the world. And at LambWeston, French fries aren't just good for their taste buds. It's good for your communities, it's good for our economies, and it's a great place to start and grow your career. So let me give you a few numbers. There are 80 million portions of French fries sold every day worldwide. And I only eat like 1 or 2 million of those. So the rest of those get spread around. Our products are sold in more than 100 countries. We have 27 manufacturing facilities around the globe, including China, Argentina, Australia, Canada, Russia, Europe, and of course in the United States. I mentioned earlier, we have 7,600 employees. We call our employees potato experts. And we hand out t-shirts that say certified potato experts. And our employees wear those with pride. In fact, my family, I've had 3 or 4 of them. My family's stolen all of them because they want to be certified potato experts. We are known for our innovation. In 1960, our founder, his name was Gib Lamb, invented a device called the water potato gun. That is now an industry standard. And that innovation is carried through to all that we do currently. I think if you asked our customers, they would tell you that we are the most innovative potato company in the world. And we have a 70-year history of supplying the highest quality frozen potato products. But our people, even though we're in the potato business, are people at the heart of everything we do. And we operate with integrity. We know that the world is changing, but LambWeston is still a special place to be. We focus on sustainable agriculture. That's an important thing to us, keeping our earth, our world, safe for us and for future generations. We've been around 70 years. We know what it means to have a long-lasting legacy. We focus on employee safety, and our focus on customer satisfaction is unchanged as well. We were named last week as Wendy's Vendor of the Year. That's something that we are very proud of, and we work very hard to provide unparalleled service and unparalleled products to our customers. So at LambWeston, we do say that every day is Friday, and we're lucky because of that. So if you are interested in working at LambWeston, I would suggest you connect with me on LinkedIn, and I would suggest you take a look at our career site, which is lambweston.com/careers.
That was great. Thank you. So Kadlec's a leading healthcare system in our region. And as you've all seen and heard with the pandemic and the cost of healthcare, it is one of the most challenging industries that we have at this point in our lives. And there's a lot of wonderful things, I believe, that are going to be coming from what we've learned through the pandemic and what we know we have to do to steal Julie's term, to pivot and take care of our population. Kadlec's mission is to provide safe and compassionate care. And we have a vision of health for a better world. And what that allows us to do is get into the population health sector, focus on suicide prevention, focus on the homeless population, focus on feeding our region, partnering with other organizations to take care of each other. And that is something that you may not think of initially when you think healthcare. You think hospital or a medical clinic or primary care, but we have an outreach effort that is truly exciting and very needed at this point in time. We want to hire caregivers who have a passion for others. We want to know you, care for you, and ease your way. And as you continue to hear me talk about caregivers, I'm a caregiver. I work behind a desk in HR, but I'm a caregiver. I'm caring for the people who are caring for you. And so that promise extends not only to the patients we serve, but to our caregivers themselves. So if you have that passion, and feel like you really want to live and breathe that mission, then we would encourage you to seek an opportunity with us. We want it to speak to your heart. We want caregivers to be able to build their careers with us. But as you all know, in anything that you do, whether it's pursuing, your degree or in a future career, you're going to spend a lot of time there, a lot of time. And so you've got to love it and have that passion. So that's what we look for, and that's what we would encourage for caregivers who want to come and work with us. Make sure that it's your passion and that it lines up and it's a calling for you. Thank you.
So I have to say that Shark Tank is one of my favorite shows. I watch it every day after work. And I love Kevin O'Leary. I love Damon because they get right down to brass tacks and they're like, tell me what my return on investment is, because that's what really matters. And repeat customers. If you spend a bunch of money to get a customer and then they show up once and they never return, that's not good for your business either. So I'll kind of speak to those two things. So I think April hit the nail on the head, and especially when you're early in your career, you have to think broad and big, and you can't think narrow. You have to expose yourself to as many different opportunities as you can. And so I think you see that breadth and opportunity at Hanford in a few ways. First of all the different contractors do something a little bit different, and they all have their unique challenges. And so I think that presents a lot of opportunity for variety. Certainty is nice. It's nice to have job security, and that's one of the reasons people like Hanford. But the problem, Stephanie, is that, if you did the same thing every single day, what would happen over time? You'd get bored, right? And so Mother Nature, in her infinite wisdom, gave us a second human need, and that's the need for variety and to be able to do different things and to be challenged with that. So if you look at the different things that the companies do, there's a lot of variety there. But also if you look at in terms of the skills that are needed by each of those contractors, you see a lot of different variety and opportunities, both for upward mobility as well as lateral mobility. So I think that's important as well. But the biggest thing too is, all of the contractors out at Hanford, they all have parent companies. Jacobs Engineering is huge. Amentum, Bechtel, those are huge companies. Leidos, they have challenges and projects all over the United States as well as all over the world, the United Kingdom, for example. And it's not just environmental remediation, everything from power and energy, oil, gas, infrastructure. And so there's a lot of variety there as well, and opportunities to meet challenges and to get exposure to those opportunities. Hanford's a really great foot in the door and a great conduit into those opportunities. So I think that's really, really important. The connection and love that you feel among your coworkers, I think, is really, really important too. I think Angela said, if you're spending a lot of time at work, you want to make sure that you enjoy your time there. And at MSA, when people ask what company that I work for, I say I don't work for a company, I work for the MSA family. I think you'll find that true all over the Hanford site. The contractors, there's a tremendous amount of connection and camaraderie between all of the workers, even workers that that I used to work with a long time ago. When we bump into each other, we still have that connection in working together. So I think that's really important. But the biggest thing that I've discovered over 20 years in helping people find happiness and fulfillment in their career is that there are two needs that you have to meet to really be fulfilled in your career. And that's contribution beyond yourself and growth. And so when I look at my individual mission at Hanford, I feel that it's significant and important, but it's really, it goes beyond that. It's like, we're doing what we do. You know, what we do at Hanford is really, really important, but how we do it is more important. It's the legacy we leave behind, and we're doing what we do for that next generation, our children, our grandchildren. And that's really what contribution beyond yourself means. And the second thing is perpetual growth. So my dad used to say, you can go forwards or backwards, but you can't stay the same. You always have to be growing in your career. So you have to have opportunities that push yourself beyond the boundaries of what you think you're capable of. And there's certainly a lot of opportunity for that at Hanford as well. In terms of repeat business or customers, I can tell you, having done site benefits for the site when I used to retire people, there were people that retired with 30, 35, in some cases over 40 years of service. And I think that speaks volumes to a company when they can say, hey, someone started with us 40 years ago and they stayed with us all the way through retirement. So for those reasons, I think Hanford's a great place to start your career and expand your career and grow your career, and to feel like you made a contribution beyond yourself. And of course, no Shark Tank pitch would be complete with a cool little tagline at the end. So I'll leave you with this. So sharks, who wants to sink their jaws into a great career?
That was amazing. I loved it all. All of it was so fun. Thank you. Okay, so Tricia, would you like to share a question from our audience?
Sure, we do have a question. It's an interviewing question. What is the most cringeworthy thing you commonly see applicants do? So is there something that you see happen over and over that maybe educators can prepare the kids for, you know, something that you think would make them interview better, or be just a more productive employee?
All right.
I can answer that first. I want folks to do a little research before they come in. I want them to be prepared, know about the company, know, you know, what they're looking for. An interview, a job interview, is really trying on a dress to see if it fits, right? Does it fit for you? Does it fit for us? And so you need to come in and kind of understand what the job entails. You need to have some questions ready to go, and you need to have done a little bit of research on the company so that you have a good understanding of how you would fit in. In addition, I would say I see a lot, in fact, it's kind of become a running joke. I see a lot of unprofessional email addresses. We communicate a great deal through email, and we use text as well, but get a professional email address that you use only for job searching, and check that account regularly.
Julie, I couldn't agree with you more. The email address has really become a challenge. The thing that I would just add to this is that, remember, your interview starts before you actually interview. So when you think about your resume, how you present yourself in that, how you present through your application process, it starts there. So little mistakes, grammar errors or spelling errors, things like that, you want to make sure, have somebody check that out for you, because that's the first way that somebody's meeting you. The other thing is, I would just say, is you almost want to think about when you're interviewing with a company, it's almost like internet dating. Okay, they're looking through your resume and they're swiping left or right, and they're doing it really quickly when they look at your resumes. So you want to put that best foot forward before they even get a chance to meet you in person, to think that, hey, this is a potential match. So if you go about it that way, think about, this is your reputation. This is the first way somebody sees you, and that the interview starts before the interview.
I'll jump in and add a couple things. I think a cover letter is a lost art. So think about writing a cover letter and an objective statement that is more than just, I want to do this job. Talk about your passion and why you want to do the job within your objective statement, and not to bring things down too much. But after the interview comes a criminal background check. And so be thoughtful about how you're managing your life. It's really saddens me a lot to see that we've got situations where we can't move applicants forward because of something that's occurred in their history, their background and their history. And when you're working with vulnerable adults, that bar is really high, so it can become a barrier for you. So just pay attention and be cognizant of that.
So I'll add just a few things. The email address is really, really important, because I've seen my fair share of what I would probably consider inappropriate email addresses. Along those same lines, your voicemail on your phone, check your voicemail and make sure that it's professional sounding as well. So that's really, really important. If you get a call back, that it sounds professional and that it's appropriate for the listening audience. So that's really, really important. I would say to kind of piggyback, do your research on the company. That's really, really important. And kind of, sort of to piggyback on what both April and Julie and Angela said too, interviewing is a two-way street. They're asking you, it really is like dating. It's like they're asking you questions to see whether or not they want to be in a working relationship with you, but you should be asking and thinking about those same kinds of questions does this fit for me as well? So I think that's really, really important. And then plan and prepare. You're likely to get a lot of behavioral-based interview questions that start out with, give me an example of, or can you tell me an instance of, or how would you handle this situation? And the challenge that people have is they draw a blank because they can't think of a time that they actually did that. And then they get out to their car after the interview is over and they're like, oh, I remember that one time, because they couldn't remember it. So it's really important to capture experiences on paper. I always encourage people to develop and build a professional work portfolio that you can study before the interview, so that when you get those questions, you can give specific examples of what you've done for others. At the end of the day, what businesses really want to know when they're interviewing is, how are you going to make us successful? And the way that you do that is to say, this is what I've done for others. This is how I did it. This is the impact I made. But you have to know that going in. If you get out to your car after the interview is over, it won't do you much good. So do some research on the company, plan, prepare, practice with a friend, and you'll go into the interview with a lot more confidence and certainty. And kind of to piggyback to what Julie said too, I believe it was Julie that said, it's like you're trying on a dress. It may or may not be the right fit for you. Sometimes people go into interview thinking about what's going to happen, are they going to like me? And they think about the results so much, they kind of take themselves out of the game. Interviewing is a two-way street. You go in there, you do your research, you plan, you prepare, you practice, and you go in there with an open mind, and it'll either work or it won't, but don't put so much pressure on yourself to give the correct answer. It's just a matter of planning and preparing and giving the answer that you see is the best fit. And then you're trying to make sure that the company, as you're doing that, they'll either like you and they'll see it as a mutual benefit, or they won't. And if they don't, that's okay. Because I've worked with several people that it took them 4 or 5 interviews before they finally found the job that was the right fit for them.
Stephanie, there's another question. Do your companies use automatic text readers to screen candidates by their resume? And that's for the panel from Ginger Wireman.
We use an applicant tracking system, and our applicant tracking system does not exclude anyone based on keyword. So in other words, yes, there is an element of text. It takes the picture of your resume and it converts that through optical character recognition into an image that we can see within our applicant tracking system, but it does not exclude anyone based upon what is included in their resume. We do have questionnaires at the beginning of our application process. Things like you legally have to be over 18 to work at one of our plants. That would exclude you. So there is a questionnaire at the beginning of the process that has some knockout questions. But in terms of if your resume is read to include or exclude you in a particular pool, that does not happen at LambWeston.
We also don't do automatic text reading. We do use an applicant tracking system, but really think about too, where we do a lot of our sourcing, which is where we're actively going out and looking for candidates. We use a lot of LinkedIn. We also look at things like Glassdoor. So what that means is you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile looks really good, that you've listed a lot of things under your skill set, because when we do, we will run things saying we're looking for these kinds of skills. And then that will automatically pick those up in LinkedIn and then shoot us, a list of people who meet that criteria. So spend a little time making sure that you've listed all those things that you can do in your experiences, because we are heavily using those to source. Now, it doesn't mean that when you apply, of course, we look through all those resumes when you apply for positions, but there are more and more employers who are actively going out and seeking, especially for example, at P&L, we have a 4% growth target year over year. So we're growing, so we're hiring like crazy. And so that means that we're actively going out and looking. So make sure those places where employers look good and that you've listed all of your skill sets.
If you're looking for a new position or your first position, make sure that you're able to be found, right? So there's 2 ways. You can either go to a particular site and apply and look for their jobs, or you can make yourself be found by companies like PNL, companies like LambWeston. You know, if there's a lot of emphasis on privacy these days and not putting a lot of your personal information, you know, out on the web. But I tell you, my recruiters every day do searches for candidates on the web. And if your resume is out there, they're more likely to find you and more likely to contact you.
Angela, Dan, would you like to say something? Or
we partnered with IBM, and from that we have what we call ACE questions. So you have a series of questions that you have to answer in order to kind of have your resume move to the next step. And then we've done something which is a little intimidating, but kind of cool, is that you get to do a video interview. So you can video yourself answering pre-screened questions. You get a chance like 4 times to redo and replay it. And then that video goes to the talent advisor for review and then on forward to the core leader. So it's a little bit different of an approach, but I think candidates are enjoying it. And I know from a hiring manager's perspective, it's nice to be able to get a visual and hear someone talk about their passion and their experience.
So all good answers. I'll add just a little bit more. So at least for the companies that I'm aware of, there's a lot of different companies out at Hanford, but for the ones that I'm aware of, we use an applicant tracking system. So we don't have, you know, software recognition that would automatically kick a resume out necessarily because they don't have the right keywords. And part of the challenge with that system is too the workaround. It doesn't always work, but what I tell people that I coach is all you have to do is copy the entire requisition, which also includes all the keywords, change the font size to 1, paste it at somewhere in the resume. It could be in the header, the footer, or somewhere. And so it kind of bypasses the system anyway. So as a recruiter, you know, if I was training somebody on recruitment, I would say you really should be printing them out anyway and reading through, because that system isn't necessarily going to always screen people out. Sometimes if there's a way to kind of get around the system. But what I would say too, for those starting out or entering their job search is, again, do your research on the company. Try to see that requisition or that job posting through the eyes of the employer. Your job is you are walking, talking, even on your resume it's an infomercial. It's a 30-second, this is who I am. This is why I'm a great fit. This is why we have rapport. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is how I'm going to make your team better. And you have to answer that ad in 30 seconds. But to do that, you have to really study that requisition, see it through the eyes of the employer, think about what they really need, and make sure you tailor your resume for each individual application, because a lot of times people just shotgun their resume out and they just use one generic version and kind of blast it out. And if you do that, you know, your odds of getting a call back for an interview are a lot lower. It might be 1 out of 50 versus if you actually take the time to really think about what you're applying for and tailoring your resume for it, your odds significantly increase in terms of getting a call back for an interview.
There's another question. How important is having a personal contact at the company to vouch for you?
We have an employee referral program at LambWeston. We have a very robust employee referral program at LambWeston, but we get most, I would say over 70% of our employees through our recruiters, either locating them or people applying on our website. So although it's nice to have someone that can speak up for you and, you know, provide a personal reference, it's absolutely not required. The majority of the people that we hire don't have that.
Yeah, agreed, Julie. So the other thing I would add with this, as you think about, because I know people feel like you have a better in if you know somebody who's in the organization. That is not always the case. Sometimes it works out well and sometimes not, because you have to remember, you don't necessarily know the reputation of that person in the organization as well. So as you ask people to, you know, recommend you, you want to be careful and thoughtful about who you're asking and making sure that they really understand the organization and that they're doing well there. For us, we hire all over the US. We hire actually around the world. So we're just looking for people who have the right skill sets, who have the energy, who have the curiosity, who have all those things that we think are going to make great P&Lers. So you don't have to have somebody there who can vouch for you, because we're going to want to see what can you bring to the table. We're not just going to wait to see who do you know, right?
You know, in the context of networking, in terms of seeking to merge with another work network that's already established, a lot of people will say, well, it's who you know. It's all, if you've heard that 100 times, it's who you know, it's who you know, it's who you know. All of us as panelists, I'm sure everyone listening knows someone personally that you probably wouldn't necessarily recommend for a job. In some cases, it might be because you do know who they are, but in other cases, it might not be necessarily the right fit for them. So just knowing someone isn't going to necessarily help you. The other argument that you hear is, well, it's what you know. If you have a really awesome skill set, it doesn't really matter whether you know anybody or not. But again, it kind of goes back to, you can have a great skill set and not necessarily be able to join that work network. If you think about professional athletes, how many great wonderful professional athletes have amazing skills, but they can never stay on one team because they can't get along with anybody. So that doesn't necessarily help you always either. So what I say to people is, it's not who you know and it's not what you know, it's who you have helped with what you know. It's being able to articulate, this is how I've helped other people's with the skill that I have, and I can do the same thing for you. So I think that's really important in the context of networking. The other thing I would say with regard to references in general is make sure you give them a heads up. Okay. At the end of the day, the reason companies want to contact your reference is they want to make sure that what you said in the interview was congruent with what they said, your friends or your professional or your personal references. So make sure you give them a heads up, tell them about the position, what kinds of questions you were asked. That way, you gave examples of what you've done for others in the interview. Your friends or whoever even if it's a professional reference, can give specific examples of things that you did while you worked for that other company, because that's why they're calling you references, is to make sure those two things are congruent.
I'll just sum it all up for us. I agree with everything that was said, and all of it's very important, but the key critical piece that's going to get you looked at is your ability to explain why this job fits your passion, why it speaks to you, why it's your calling, and that will speak volumes. So just make sure that you're exuding that and sharing that information in any forum that you have an opportunity to.
After this panel, I'm literally gonna have to go to this recording and take notes because this is amazing information. Okay, so the next question we have for you guys is, we know that building a strong pathway from education to the workplace is critical. Does your organization offer internships or community outreach activities? How does one apply or become involved?
Yeah, so I'll jump in there, and the answer is a resounding yes. We have tons of internships. We have an amazing STEM outreach office. As you know, and you'll hear, if you stay on today, you'll hear later on from Evangelina Sharif, who's awesome, that works at P&L and really works on bringing STEM education and STEM outreach into the communities and Tri-Cities and beyond. If you are interested in our internships, we do them year round. We bring a lot of people in the summer, but we also have year-round internships. You can go to pnnl.gov/internships, right? So that's pnnl.gov/internships. And then you'll see what we have available all times of the year. And like I said, we bring a huge number in the summer, but we also do it year round. And it's important to us because we believe that part of our mission is to build that next level of STEM, right? We want to build the next scientist. We want to build the next business professional. It's a huge part of who we are. Remember, and I talked about that sociable and that collaboration, but we feel like we need to bring that to our communities, and also that we're responsible for training the world we want to have. And providing those opportunities. And one of the things I think we didn't mention, when you think about as you apply for those jobs and you bring it in, especially in internships when you interview, is telling people what you want to learn. We always want to help students. We want to help you get there. So saying, here's what I'm interested in, here's what I want to know, here's what how you can help me, goes a long way for us.
At LambWeston, we do internships across the board as well. So we do them in multiple groups within our plants and within our offices. So you could be an HR intern, you could be an engineering intern, you could be a plant intern, you could be a finance intern. So we do a lot of internships with the primary goal of converting those interns to full-time employees upon graduation. That's always our goal, because we want you to learn about us, learn about our work style, we learn about you, and then you come to work for us. So that said, our internships are also available on the career site. I will mention that last summer, we don't do them year round. We do them only in the summer. And you don't have to be a particular year in school. We consider all majors. We consider all years of school. But last summer, regrettably, just as a pandemic hit, we had to cancel our internships because we could not allow non-employees into the plant for safety reasons. And so even though an internship is a temporary employee, we elected to do that. It's something that we wish hadn't happened, but I want to be completely transparent with it. So this next summer, I am currently working on a program to ensure that we can do at least some level of internship in our plants and in our offices, even if it requires some level of remote work. So I think the pandemic's changed all of us, and we're kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. But we love interns, and we love to get that new energy into our offices, into our plants. And so I'd encourage you to go to our career site, look at those positions, and then contact me if you have any questions.
So at Kadlec, we offer scholarships through our foundation, and we offer a variety of different scholarships, so it doesn't just have to be someone pursuing a nursing degree. We also have internship opportunities, shadowing opportunities. We had to, like Julie shared, kind of change our approach to that based on the pandemic, but in general, those opportunities are there through our student services department. We also have externship opportunities, and so if you're pursuing a nursing degree, we can put you to work before you even get your degree based on the competencies that you've learned thus far. And then you work with a clinical education instructor here at Kadlec that says, okay, based on what you know and based on what you're competent, these are the kinds of things that you can do today. We have a patient sitter. It's like a student nursing assistant position where you don't have to have any clinical background. They work around your school hours. You could even, be sitting and watching and kind of making sure the patient's safe while you're studying, and you're earning some income, and you're getting a really good sense for what it looks like to be in a clinical setting. So we encourage those entry-level type positions to get a sense of what this is all about, making sure it's a fit for you. And then we have other entry-level positions, again, that work around your schooling. They flex the full-time equivalent position to make sure that they're ensuring that you're able to continue your schooling, whether that's in food and nutrition or environmental services or other kinds of frontline positions. The externship opportunities, I forgot to mention, if you're in the nursing program, they commit to you that once you finish, you will have a regular staffed position with us. And so that's been a great feeder program, and I would encourage you to look at all of the opportunities on kadlec.org, and at the bottom of the page, there's a work for Kadlec category that has all of those things mentioned, listed out.
So at Hanford, we have a lot of different internship opportunities. The company, everybody does it a little bit differently in terms of the application process. CHPRC, you can go to their website. Same with Washington River Protection Solutions. You can go to directly to their website, and I believe they're also on LinkedIn. Amentum and Bechtel for the vitrification plant, you apply through their website. For Mission Support Alliance, so it's kind of, there's two different programs. So there's ANR, which is a subcontractor that we use for summer internships. And then for our co-op internship program, which is where you're going to school part-time and then also working, that application process is done so through the Mission Support Alliance website. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for, but I think regardless of what you're looking for, what I would say to people is make sure that you look early. A lot of times people will call in March or April and say, hey, I'm interested in summer internship, and it's too late. So you really want to start thinking, towards the first part of the year about starting to put your feelers out there, reaching out, call the, look up the employment website on Hanford.gov. and reach out if you're not sure where to apply, but you have to do so kind of early in the process to make sure that you're considered for summer internships. The nice thing about the internship program and all the programs at Hanford is really the idea is it's a conduit into something full-time. And I have to give a shout out to Maureen Gore, who works for Mission Support Alliance, because I know she's listening. I know she's listening, but she's done a really nice job of really expanding our internship program. We'll continue to do so, as will the other contractors, to help, again, meet some of the needs skills gap wise down the road and in the future. But to kind of piggyback off what was said too, you know, it's when you go into an internship, you know, don't be shy about explaining what it is that you're interested in, what you want to learn, but also be open-minded. I think sometimes people are like, I'm looking for an internship in something that, you know, I'm going to school in, and they don't look elsewhere. And the challenge with that is that your net isn't big enough. And so you expose yourself to more opportunity when you're a little bit more open-minded. And I'll tell you this, like, even if you get an internship and it's not in the area of study that you're interested in, or even doing something that you're interested in, you would be flabbergasted what you'll learn and what you can use those skills and using them along with, you know, whatever your passion ends up being and those skill sets, and applying that to whatever it is that you really want to do down the road. So it's important to just be open-minded, be a sponge, and try to learn as much as you can, regardless of the internship.
And Dan, I appreciate you mentioning the timeline, because in a normal year, in a non-pandemic year, we would actually be completing our internship cycle about this time right now. But because of COVID, we have put that off. So we will be doing the majority of our interviewing and hiring for internships in the spring this year.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. The next question is, and I think Danny touched on this a little bit with the open-mindedness, but many of my classmates are not certain of their career path. What is the best piece of advice you can offer a young person about how to identify a rewarding career?
I think that the young people that I've seen that really get a good understanding of what they want to do, and this includes what they want to study or what they want to go into for work, they ask a lot of questions and they ask people doing those jobs. So, you know, you can find people on LinkedIn and have a conversation with them if you don't know them personally, or you can ask for referrals through your college. You can ask for referrals through your friends, but have those conversations. You know, even in my career, I've had people come in and shadow me, students shadow me, just to see if it's something that they might be interested in. Is it the kind of work that would keep them excited over years, right? So ask a lot of questions, do a lot of research, get some real world examples. That's what I would tell you to do.
I'll jump in. I've hit on this a lot, and I apologize to sound like a broken record. But yes, absolutely talk to others, make sure you understand not just what it takes to get there, but then what it's like day to day, right? Because you've got to love what you do. I started my career, I graduated from Hanford, went to WSU Tri-Cities, go Cougs. I landed a COE job at Battelle, and kind of grew up in the ranks and literally just fell into HR. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I, you know, went to talk to my HR manager and said, I don't know what I want to do. And she says, well, come work for me. And then I started using their tuition. This is a total plug for the lab, love the lab. I used their tuition reimbursement and started getting my degree in sociology at WSU Tri-Cities. And I'm still thinking, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And a gentleman by the name of Gordon Beecher came in. He was counsel for Hanford at that time, and came in to talk to our staffing class and talked all about equal opportunity and investigations and that whole employee relations and labor relations work. And I just felt like the skies opened and the sun shone down, and I knew right then, this is it. And, you know, most people wouldn't want to go into that type of work, and I never would have thought. So as you're learning and talking with people, you know, what is lighting your fire? You got to pay attention to your gut and pay attention to what your heart's telling you. And make sure you're lining up all your hard work with something that you can love for a really long time. So thanks to the lab, and you know, I'll expect a free coffee later or something for the plug.
I was like, I love that plug. Yes. I will just add something that some of the parents might be like, what? As you start going through your educational career, that you pick subjects that ignite you. And because you have a long time to work, and you want to do things that you feel engaged around, and don't be afraid to try new things. And I say that because I'm a person who went to UCLA, thought I was going to be a poli-sci major and was going to be a lawyer, because that's what my parents really thought you needed to do. And about a year into school, I made that dreaded call to my parents where I said, I'm not going to be a lawyer, and I'm not going to do poli-sci. And guess what? I'm going to major in women's studies. And they said, what? How are you going to feed yourself? And I said, don't worry about it. I'm like, there's so many opportunities, so many things I can do, and really set me on the path to do HR. I'm an HR geek. That's the thing I love. But the idea was I went after something that wasn't traditional, but because I loved it and I engaged in it and I made connections and I learned more. And there were a lot of things that I did for work that I didn't say no to, right? That opportunities that people brought that said, hey, you want to try this? And I was like, yeah. And then what I did is I learned, and I was able to build a career off that. So I can't encourage you more to do things that might seem like it's not the traditional path, but if you're engaged in it, you will make a career out of it.
Stephanie, I hate to say it, but we're out of time. I can't thank everyone enough. I had no idea how powerful this panel was going to be. And I'm with Stephanie. I am so thrilled that we recorded it, and that we will be working with folks like Tricia Anderson and other educators to share. Just to have every student hear that Shark Tank pitch would be a great start, but also to capture all of this passionate inside scoop is just tremendous. So as we're building that vision for young people, your words were just priceless. So Stephanie, you did an awesome job, and I wish you well on locating your next internship. And we're here to help you with that. If you decide after hearing one of these Shark Tank pitches that you found your company. And I can't thank you enough, April, Julie, Angela, Dan, Tricia, for helping us this morning to really kick this event off in such a powerful way. So we're going to see everyone back here at 10 a.m. And at that point, we'll be exploring financial and cultural barriers to credential attainment. Thank you so much. See you soon.